right, we're live on Facebook. Hello, Facebook. It's Michael Hellickson with Club Wealth, and I am joined by my co-hosts, Club Wealth Expansion Services CEO, Sheree Benjamin, who also happens to be the rockstar real estate agent of the world, and just kind of hangs her hat in Atlanta there, and runs an awesome team there with, I think last year, just over 250 transactions, and this year on track, you're going to do what, 500 this year? With your 36 team members. Boom. I love it. And then we've also got, of course, Coach. And by the way, Sheree is also a Club Wealth coach. We've got, of course, Brian Curtis, Coach Brian Curtis from Bentonville, Arkansas. And if you haven't heard where Bentonville, Arkansas is, don't worry, neither have we. We've heard that it exists, but I've never seen it on a map, so I'm not sure. But I did hear they got a stop sign last week, thanks to Brian and his 330 plus sales last year. They were able to afford a stop sign for the city. So thank you, Brian, for contributing back to the city. That was nice of you.
Anything I can do.
330 plus transactions, though, seriously, guys. Brian's a rock star. Love having Brian, also, who is the Chief Operating Officer of Club Wealth Expansion Services. So for those of you that have teams or that would like to be on a team somewhere in the country, if you guys are looking for support and help on the back end so that you can just focus on selling real estate, Expansion Services is a great way to go. And then we've got with us Mr. Ken Crotts. Freaking Ken. I love Ken. I've known Ken for many, many years. He's been a Club Wealth coaching client for a long time. And Ken's a rock star. Ken is very consistently listing over 4 homes a week, very consistently. He what are you setting now? 2 appointments a week, Ken? Is that, or excuse me, 2 appointments a day each day? Is that about right?
I try to go on 2 or 3 appointments a day. Yeah.
2 or 3 appointments a day, and you're taking about 4 listings a week, and you're just crushing it. And I don't even know how, I can't even remember. I should know this as your coach. I should know, how many listings you've taken in the last 12 months and how many transactions you've closed. But what I'm really excited about you, Ken, is how quickly you've grown your team. And I know that in the beginning, you struggled with the whole, do I really want to be a team leader thing? And I really hope that Brian and Sheree can evoke a little bit of that out of you today. I want to hear a little bit more about that. In addition to your takeaways from Listing Agent Bootcamp, I'd love to hear how you got over that. I really don't want to build a team. And then you kind of built one and it didn't work out. And then you got back into it and you then built it again and have had great success with it. So that being said, let me start by saying welcome to Club Wealth TV. We appreciate you being here. And as always, we want to also give a quick shout out to our sponsor for Club Wealth TV, who is WiseHire. And if you guys aren't using WiseHire already, we love WiseHire. They're a great recruiting tool, not just for administrative team members, but for buyers agents and listing agents as well. And you can access our special opportunities at WiseHire by going to clubwealth.com/WiseHire or wisehire.com/clubwealth. So that being said, Brian and Sheree, let's welcome Ken Crotts and have you guys start asking him some great questions while I share this to some groups.
Go, Sheree.
Thanks, Brian. I knew it was going to be whoever said go first.
How come I feel like I'm on one of those shows where you're sitting on a tall stool in the front of a camera?
Just a little bit of a hot seat. That's all. It's just a little hot seat, Ken. No problem. You can handle it, tough guy.
I'll try.
Awesome.
All right, so let's talk about something really quick. So the building a team, you currently have a team.
I do.
And what was the mental block that you initially had in your fear of growing a team?
Well, I've been in real estate for 32 years, and for the majority of that time, I was kind of playing the Lone Ranger. I could do it all. I didn't want to rely on anybody. Didn't want to be let down. And so, Michael finally helped me see that, you have to build a team. I don't know if I actually saw it or if he just beat it into me, but it worked. And I started and I grew a team. But I quickly found out that, building a team and being a leader is very different than just being a good agent. So it required a lot of new perspectives and skills and inputs and education on my part. So it was a real struggle to learn that. So that's been the epiphany that I've had, and it's with Mike's help, we're coming around again.
And by the way, Ken, if it takes beating in India to get you to finally do it, I'll do it, man. I'm all for it if that's what it takes.
Yeah.
But
baseball bat.
Well, and let's call it what it is. There's agents out there that don't have teams and they're successful, and that's fine. It's building a team is not for everybody, and it's not necessary to be successful in real estate and have a great career in real estate. But we need to be real with ourselves about the difference between being an entrepreneur and being a business owner. And an entrepreneur is an agent that doesn't have a team, right? It's just them. They might have an assistant, but they don't build a team. So no matter what, the production is up to them, right? If they have success or don't have success, it's going to be based on their personal production. And if they go on vacation, they're not able to they're either forced to work while they're on vacation, or their production suffers while they're on vacation. And again, I'm not trying to say that you can't have a great career and not have a team. I'm just saying that I prefer life with a team. And I guess, Ken, what I would ask you is, how do you feel about that?
Well, I was in the mastermind with Brian and Cherie and other agents. I see the kind of businesses they have and the lifestyle that they achieve. And it's not a wealth lifestyle so much as they have time, they have they have some peace. Peace of mind, right. Sure, he's loud, but I mean, they could get away. And this year at Listing Agent Boot Camp, that week we sold 7 listings and put 8 buyers under contract. And you know what? I wasn't there for any of it, and that to me rocks, because I was learning some great stuff and hanging out with some great people, and my business was running while I wasn't there.
That is such a big deal. And that's really what the message I want people to get is, look, it's not for everybody, but for those of you that are solo agents, if you're, by the way, if you're on a team, awesome. You know what? There's people on teams make great money, but if you're not on a team or not building a team, I really think it's something you should consider. That being said, Ken, let's talk about listings, and let's talk about Listing Agent Bootcamp, your takeaways, and how in the world are you getting 4 listings a week very consistently for a very long time?
Well, I like to keep it simple. So in real estate, you get out what you put in. I believe that consistent input equals consistent output. So consistency is really important. And the first step in consistency is having a perfect daily schedule based upon a plan that'll get you to the goals that you've set. So for me, I like a very consistent business, deals coming in, or leads coming in, deals coming out very consistently. So I like to just have a plain schedule of prospecting for 3 hours and doing my admin, going on 2 to 3 appointments a day. And that's it. It's not rocket science. We also, though, I think one thing that I added with you, Michael, is a variety of sources. So we have 9 different lead sources that we use. And so we don't rely on any one lead source. We're not going to let a Zillow or Realtor.com or any one lead source dominate our business to the point where we could ever be held hostage. So
that's a big key. Yep, that's a really big key. That's a really huge key. So tell me this. So we've got some agents that they don't like that dreaded word called prospecting. It's like nails on the chalkboard. It's the nails on the chalkboard every time you mention the word prospecting to them. So in those 3 hours that you're calling, what are your goals that you're setting? Like, what's your mindset? I'm going to sit down. I'm going to call for 3 hours. What are you trying to reach during that time?
My mindset is, man, this is the easiest part of my day. I get to call and BS with people with no pressure. It's fun. I just connect. I have fun and laugh and have conversations and provide information to them. And it's not like if the deal falls apart, I lose anything. It's not like I could get sued. It's not like the team's going to fall apart. I'm just talking to people for 3 hours. It's the best part of my day. I think of it like being at a cocktail party. I'm just going around and talking with people, striking up conversations and finding out what they're looking for in their real estate needs. And we just have to be in a perfect position to provide them whatever they need.
Yeah, and that's one thing that I really, really love about Club Wealth is that Club Wealth is a lot of mindset shifting that happens. And from the top producers that we have in Club Wealth, what we hear time and time again is they come with a different set of mindset. So your mindset is part of it, but what are those actionable goals? What is that goal that you're trying to reach in that 3 hours for you to say, pat on the back, good job, Ken?
Okay, so when I'm calling, I'm set up to provide when I get a hold of somebody, when I got somebody on the phone, my goal is to provide them information that they don't know. If it's a distressed property, I provide them actual information, live information from the trustees. If it's a for sale by owner, I share with them information about what else is for sale right there. I have 2 big screens, and I have information available that I can provide on the fly while I'm talking to them. That is such a big hook. If you can provide information and show value while you're talking to somebody on the phone live, you're going to have a customer. And so my connection rate is fairly low. I'm only connecting between 7 and 10 people an hour, but I set an appointment for every 5 to 7 people I talk to. So I have a very high close rate. So it's a little different than some of the just hardcore, scripted out, numbers-based only type of a system, and more to providing value and really listening to what that customer needs and providing them with an appropriate solution.
Okay, so here's what I want to know, though, because that's a high conversion rate, right? So you said you're getting an appointment on every 5 to 7 people you talk to. Is that right?
Yeah, it's crazy.
Okay, so first of all, I'm assuming that you're not being uber particular about which appointments you'll go on, right? Like if somebody has a pulse and they want to sell a house, you're going on the appointment, right?
Yeah, I cover 3 counties. I cover an entire a big area. So I'm looking for the most motivated, most qualified person. So yeah, and when I get a hold of them, I give them what they want and demonstrate a unique ability to solve their problem. And that's really what it comes down to. But when I'm calling, it's not a big pressure situation. It's very easygoing. I'm very light, conversational. And if I don't get them, that's fine. There's 1,000 numbers behind them that I can call.
So you're saying you're yourself. Tell me this. Do you care whether you are the first person, the second person, the third agent? Do you care what number agent you are?
Yeah, that's kind of a trap, to tell you the truth. So number one, you've got to be calling. So I don't want to give everybody the impression that they need to overanalyze who they're calling and what they're saying. They need to get on and develop the habit of calling first. Get that perfect daily schedule and make those 2 or 3 hours of calls. Then we zero in on being more productive on who we call. And I am more particular on expired listings. You got to be first. You got to be fast. And that's the guy that gets the expired listings. On for sale by owners, you don't have to be first. You need to either be first or you need to wait 2 or 3 weeks until they're kind of realizing that it's not as easy as they thought. On circle prospecting, it's much more conversational, and you don't have to be first because there's nobody else calling. I really like calling people that don't have a bunch of other agents calling them, but you can never deny expireds and FSBOs because they're the people in the market that have already raised their hand and said, hey, come sell me.
See, what I love is that there's another company that we won't mention that teaches their script that you should always be the last person when you're calling expired, so reschedule that appointment. Why would you ever want to do that? But reschedule that appointment if there's another agent that's going in front of you. And your mindset is first in the door, I can get it, I can snag it. I'll call the other agents and tell them don't worry about that appointment because it'll be listed. Then you can go.
I've made hundreds of those calls. Hey, Cherie, I wanted to let you know Mr. Smith really loved you, but I convinced him to list with me, and so you won't need to see him tonight at 6 o'clock.
But bring your buyers.
I actually had a time. Ken, you remember John Schlombush, right?
Oh, yeah. He's a great agent.
He is a great agent. John does a great job. He's very consistently been at 25 to 35 listings a month for many years. And I think he's slowed down since, but back in the day, he was very consistently listing those kind of numbers. And I remember I was on a listing appointment that I was competing with John on, and it was a guy named Hobb, H-A-B. and it was a condo down in Tacoma. And I'm sitting there with Hob, and we had just been talking about John, because he's like, yeah, I've been interviewing with this John Schlombusch guy. You know, I might select him. And I said, really? Well, that's great. And we talked a little bit more about it, and I got him convinced to, of course, list with me. Well, literally, kid you not, in the middle of that conversation, guess who calls? John Schlombusch calls Hob and says, you know, and Hob looks at the phone. He says, hey, speak of the devil, it's your buddy John calling. And I said, dude, that's awesome. Why don't you give me the phone? Let me answer it. And he's like, what? You know, yeah, really. Let me answer the phone. So I grabbed the phone, I pick it up, and I said, hey, John, it's Michael Hellickson. How are you? And it was kind of a pause. And I said, hey, I just wanted to let you know I'm over here at Hob's condo, and we just put it on the market, but I'm really excited. He said that you had a buyer for the condo, so I'm really excited that you're going to be bringing your buyer out. And just to let you know, it'll be available for showing this weekend. So definitely bring your buyer by, and we'd love to see an offer from you. Okay. It was awesome. So
there's nothing more fun than calling, especially when you know that there's you plus someone else in that market that you battle with, and calling them and saying, just bring your buyers by this weekend. I got it.
Yeah. There is the thrill of the kill in real estate. I mean, I still get butterflies when I'm competing against good agents, and I still really go at it to win it every time. And it's, that's a great driving home with the deal after, having a good battle with another great agent. And those great agents actually keep you sharp, which is great.
It's interesting you say that. I actually had that experience with another coach recently, where there's another coach out there doing some stuff that really kind of made me feel like, hey, I need to up my game. And it really got me thinking about ways that I can up my game and make Club Wealth better. So I agree with you. I like competition. I think it's a good thing. What I want to know is, first of all, I want to hear Brian's questions, because he's been pretty quiet so far. But what I want to know from you, Ken, is how do you handle that objection? Hey, I've got 3 other agents I have to interview, yada, yada, yada. What is your method to really resolve that concern and move past it?
Oh, they're interviewing more than 1 agent? Well, good for you. Most savvy sellers do. So what time are you meeting them? And then I'll go ahead and just set the appointment.
So what if you're already on the appointment and you're sitting there and you're getting ready to list it, and then they bring that objection up? Oh, well, I've still got to interview 3 people. I've got them coming up in the next couple of days.
Well, I can appreciate that, Mike. You have 3 agents coming in. What I hear you saying is you want to make sure you get the right agent for the job, right?
Yeah.
And how will you know you have the right agent?
Well, that's a good question. I guess I'll just feel it.
You just feel it? Is that how you feel it right now? I've never had that, by the way.
What are you getting for that objection? What are you getting?
Yeah, so I let them I make them divulge the objection, and then I answer the objection. And overcome it. So the objection isn't really I have 3 agents. It's you haven't told me enough, or you haven't convinced me yet that you're the right guy. So I'm going to stay at it and find out really what they're looking for. Do you need more marketing? Is it commissions? Is it size of my company, size of my team?
What about, my wife and I, we just like to just think about it. We just want to think about it to make sure we're making the right decision after we talk to everyone.
Well, that's good. That means you're very deliberate about your process, right? Let's do this. Since I'm here tonight, Cherie, let's go ahead and sign the paperwork now. And then I'll give you 24 hours. I'll write it right in right here, and you guys can tear up the contract. In the meantime, over that 24 hours, we'll be getting to work, getting things set up, getting the photographer scheduled, and getting you on the way to where it is that you want to go next. So go ahead.
I don't want to waste all your time.
Well, you know what? This is what I do for a living. I'm more concerned about your time. And the longer we wait to get your house on the market, the longer it's going to take you to get to New York where you wanted to be, right?
You're right.
So let's go ahead and sign a contract right now. And I'll get the paperwork started. I'll give you a 24-hour clause. And in the meantime, we'll be getting ready to get your house on the market. And we'll be off and running tomorrow. Won't that be great?
Yeah, that would. Thanks.
Well, great. Congratulations. Welcome to our team.
I love it. And, here's the thing. What I'm really hearing is you're going to continue. You're just going to keep talking until they sign something. I mean, it's just, you're just not going to give up. Right. And by the way, I'm the same way. I don't care what it takes. You got to walk out of there with a signed listing agreement. If you don't walk out of there with a signed listing agreement, chances are you're not going to get it.
Right.
So,
most people will give you, I only get objections like that 2 out of 3 times. And most people will give you an objection, will give you 1, maybe 2. I mean, it's not that hard. You just have to show up ready to work.
Yeah. Yeah.
So let me talk about something, Ken, because first of all, for all of you watching, you're not as good as Ken. Let me just tell you that. You're not.
It's probably true.
And I don't mean that in a negative way. And I also don't mean that you can't be as good as Ken, but Ken's only been doing this for 32 years the same way over and over and over again. And here's the thing I wanted to point out. So, and you and I did this a couple of years ago, Ken. We were on Club Wealth TV, and you and I did some role play. And it's actually, I have people go back and watch it because I feel like we did a really good job. I'll pat us on the back. But one of the things that I notice that you're an amazing closer. Like, you listen, you address the objection, and then you close. You listen, you address the objection, and then you close. And that's awesome. One of the things I want to warn people about, though, and I think that you can probably talk to this after this, is I've always been told to ask someone to buy again, which is ultimately what you're doing. You're asking them to buy again, is you either have to change the deal or add new information. Would you agree with that?
I agree with that completely.
I just want to be careful. I mean, Ken's doing this in some role play with us, but I want you guys to understand, Ken doesn't go in there and just say, sign here, sign here, sign here, sign here. So he provides more information. He identifies the objection, because here's the thing. You want to be high pressure without appearing high pressure, right? That's one of the things that Ken's absolutely great at. So I just want to make sure that everyone understands out there that, Ken's giving us a much shorter version of what he does. So he's giving them more information. He's talking to them. He's really digging deep into what that objection is, closing it and going, okay, guys, so now that you understand that I will do amazing open houses for you, and that was a big important thing for you, please sign here. So just keep those 2 rules in mind, is that if you're going to close again, add more information, change the deal ultimately, or add more information, because ultimately, otherwise you're going to be perceived as an extremely hard closer, and you don't want people to think of you that way. But
that's a great point. And I think maybe to clarify, you said high pressure. It's not high pressure. It's consistent, soft, pushy pressure. You're consistent. You just don't let up. You don't have to high pressure them. You just need to keep it on and never let go.
Absolutely.
And that's what wins, I think, is that consistent. I'm going to keep coming at you and coming at you and coming at you nicely. You're going to like me, but I'm not going away.
Well, and that's like my favorite close. When somebody gives me an objection, I resolve the objection, and then I come right back with, are there any other questions before we get started on the paperwork? And I just keep coming back with it, and I keep coming back with it, and I keep coming back with it. And what I really want to convey is I want to be aggressive with the process, but not with the person. Right.
Right. You don't want to offend.
Right.
That doesn't win. Because once you offend, they put up walls. Now you're pushing against some resistance, and the objection or the object is to remove resistance, not create it.
Right. And I love it. Rick Rayness was like, I thought you were going to say that Ken was bad there, Brian. It's the same thing, Ken. Rick, I love it. And by the way, those of you that are watching live, if you have questions or comments, leave them. We're on the Club Wealth. So it's Michael Hellickson's Club Wealth Real Estate Coaching and Consulting. That's the page. So if you go to the page, and if you're in that feed, that's the feed that we watch while we're on these. And so definitely throw your questions in there. And we'll definitely get to him. And Rick says, Ken is that uncle that never leaves. You have to sign away your home to him, and then he'll leave. I love my Uncle Ken.
That'll be my new nickname, Uncle Ken.
I love it. That's awesome.
So can you, since we're talking listings, and you was at Listing Agent Boot Camp, can you give us what's your number one takeaway that you got from Listing Agent Boot Camp?
I was afraid you guys were going to ask me that, because I've got 1 by 3 foot stickers all over my wall with all the takeaways that I had. Well, my takeaways are directly related to where we're at in our business. And so my takeaways are organizationally oriented, leadership recruiting, training. I mean, Misty Bruton was awesome. She just gave us her checklist yesterday. We went over it. So I'm consistently looking to recruit and train and do that. And that's a big takeaway for me. But I think it's important that, if you're 0 to 40 deals, you've got to work on your work ethic and your daily habits. If you're 40 to 80, you're working on your systems. And if you're 80 plus, you're really working on team building and leadership. Does that make sense? So I want people that are listening to, if you're 0 to 40, perfect daily schedule. Michael has it. I think you have it on Club Wealth. I'm not sure.
In fact, I'll post the link in here. It's clubwealth.com/PDS, as in perfect daily schedule. So I'll post the link right now.
Yeah, that is so crucial. That'll get you to 40 deals with one assistant very quickly. But you've got to work on those daily habits. And once you're 40 to 80, you're talking about systems, an assistant for closing, somebody else to handle all the things that are lower levels activities that your time isn't well spent on. You need to spend your time in front of clients. And then, of course, above that, you're teaching other people to do what you do. So yeah, I know I kind of danced around the question tree, but I want to make sure that the people that are listening are getting information they need for where they're at. And that's why I love Club Wealth. I get coached where at the level I'm at. And I know everybody gets coached at the level they're at, which is really entirely unique in the coaching world.
Yeah, that's a very good point. For example, there's people that it's not just about the level. I mean, that's a big part of it, right? It's about the level you're at. And it's also about who the right fit for you is. For example, I personally don't coach agents that don't have teams, right? All of the people that I personally coach have teams, but we do have other coaches in Club Wealth that do coach people that don't have teams because they're good at that. That's just not my specialty, right? And same thing with that level. We always, and I don't want to say it even jokingly because it's really true, right? If I want to climb Mount Everest, I need a guide that's been to the top of Mount Everest before. It cracks me up that there's all these coaches in the industry that have had moderate or no success selling real estate, but they think they're qualified to go coach people on how to have success in real estate. And the reality is, that ain't so. This is business, and you need to have been where somebody's trying to go to truly help them at the deepest level. Now, that alone doesn't qualify you as a coach, but it is a minimum standard for becoming a coach in my mind. All right, well, good stuff. So Brian, I want to come back to you, and I want you to hit Ken with, what are some questions you have for Ken in terms of how he's been able to either list as many homes as he had, or how he's been able to build that team.
So let's talk about the team, Ken. Sorry, let's talk about it because I feel like it's interesting. You talk to people and you don't always track what's going on in their life. I don't think I even initially knew that your team blew up. It's kind of what you said earlier.
It was devastating, and I went into withdrawals for about 6 months, and thankfully Michael hung in there with me, and we came back around.
So that's a painful experience. I mean, it's painful when you lose a good, let alone lose.
Yes, this has to be important.
Sheree, I just muted you out. We could hear you. Go ahead.
So, what did you learn? Because I think one of the biggest things, and hindsight, any of my team members are out there watching, hello, that I would probably do things differently if I had to start over. But there are things that, at this point in time, I don't want to take away from my team because I've given it and it's worked out well. But so obviously you found enough value to do it again, which says a lot. But What did you learn? What was the biggest lesson that you learned when the team went kaboom and you're like, well, I don't want to do this anymore? And then obviously you changed. So what was the biggest lesson?
I did change. Well, okay. So I got into the process of building a team. I had all the activities I needed to do to build a team. I went after them. I built, I hired buyer's agents. I built this team, but I didn't grow internally, and it's been interesting. It's an internal growth process for you to build the external team. And I'd had a great buyer's agent for like 6 years. He was a rock star, but he left to move, not because of anything about the team, but eventually everybody else left, including my daughter. And I had pulled back for 6 months. I felt really burned. I felt really burned. It comes down to this, Brian. I'm going to do it one way or another. I'm not going to quit, and I'm never going to quit. And I don't want to sit back and relax and be the kind of person that quit. So, you don't fail until you quit. And I'm not going to quit, because quitting's a choice, and I won't choose to fail.
Sure. So I guess, and I'm going to ask, I'm going to pretend I'm a good interviewer on television. So what did you learn, though? Because there was something in there that you said, okay, this is what I did wrong. I mean, here's the thing. Like, I have stuff go wrong in my life constantly because I'm in business, and therefore stuff's going to go wrong. And we're in a crazy business. And anyone who's watching out there who you think that you've got a crazy business, so do all the rest of us. The stuff that happens in real estate, to me, is some of the most unbelievable things that happen. It really is kind of crazy. It's so personal. It's so emotional. It's so crazy stuff happens. So I'm trying to constantly ask myself that question: is there anything that I should do different next time? Have you answered that question for yourself yet?
Yeah.
It's okay. I'm trying to put you on the spot. If you haven't, that's fine.
For me, it was I started reading a lot of books about leadership. Dr. Wayne Dyer was transformational for me. Really, I had to kind of grow up and realize it wasn't about me. It's about the team. It's about the team members. You might be the leader, but you're not it. And I had to learn to put other people first. And I'm still learning that. I mean, on a daily basis, I'm still having to pull back and say, hey, that person, I got to put that person ahead of me and figure out what they need. And it's a growth process. So I just had to sit back and be a little bit more patient with everybody, because I have zero patience. And learn patience was probably the biggest thing for me personally.
That's awesome. And Ken said a couple of things that to me are the keys if you want to be a leader. So leadership is not about being the guy who goes, woohoo, we sold 300 houses. That doesn't do that. I'm not saying Michael won't do it for you, because he will. But ultimately, it's not what it's about. It's the team sold 300 houses. The team did this. The team did that. And, Cherie talks about that she eats last. And it's the same concept behind there is if you're a selfish person, don't be a leader. You cannot be a leader that's successful and powerful and respected if you're only thinking about what's in it for you. Now, I'm not saying there's not stuff in it for you, but I promise you, when you've got 25 people on your team, what you have is 25 people causing problems on a daily basis. When you have 2 people on your team, you got 2 people causing problems on a daily basis. That doesn't mean that I would ever trade being a team leader, because it's honestly the most rewarding thing that I do, but it's also most frustrating, the most challenging, the most moving parts that you're ever going to see. And I appreciate that, you get that. You're like, look, I got to take a step back and say, it's not about me. And, even though sometimes our name is the name of the team, even though all these people are always looking to us, the reality is we have to give more than we get, and it's that whole, it's going to come back to you tenfold. I firmly believe that. That's just, just a principle I believe in. Whatever I get back tenfold. But it's literally about giving. It's being on the phone. I've been on the phone this morning before this call for like 45 minutes with a guy on our team. He works harder than anybody else on our team, and every deal falls apart. And he's ready to quit. Things are going wrong, and all these things are happening. And, we got to keep talking to these people every single day. I love that. But the truth of the matter is, you do that for 4 or 5 hours a day, where's you out? Because you've got to be positive. People talk about the morning huddle, and I know that you do a morning huddle, but you get on that morning huddle every morning. There's some days that you're not happy to be on the morning huddle, right? I mean, let's be honest. So sometimes, the first thing I don't want to do at 7 o'clock in the morning is talk to somebody, and you have to be on there, and you have to be the person who's positive. You can't fall into that. And, sometimes showing up is 80% of the deal because you don't feel like showing up. So I really appreciate the fact that you said, I'm doing this, I'm doing it no matter what. And more than anything, you said, you know what, I need better leadership skills. And being a team leader, that's the title. And I appreciate that that's what you're doing. It's not team manager. It's not team owner. It's not team guy who gets the checks when everybody else does the work. Team leader. And it's by far the most challenging and rewarding job that I think that we're going to have in real estate. So
personally, one of the most difficult things I've ever done is to go through this process.
Yeah, I've talked to several people, and it's a really tough shift for them, because you take someone who is a rock star agent doing it on their own. They might have an assistant that's there, but they can go in and get that listing appointment just like that. They can go and meet with those buyers and close it out and get that buyer under contract and showing less than 5 houses just like that. And then they have to make this transition. And that's the one thing. And I really appreciate you being very transparent about that, Ken, because a lot of people are not. A lot of people are not willing to be vulnerable and say, I need better leadership skills in this aspect. Yes, I'm a great agent. Yes, I'm number 1 in my market or 2 or wherever that number is, but I need to become a better leader. I really appreciate that you're saying that, because it is a shift and it's not an overnight change. So some people think that they'll add team members and I can go read a book and it's supposed to change. It's not. It doesn't work that way. You jump on the morning huddle and you say, go, 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 and your team members are going to say, go, 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 and that doesn't work and it doesn't happen. So it's I really, really appreciate that you were putting that out there, because a lot of times it's that little elephant that's in the room that no one wants to talk about, that it is a very hard transition to go from being this solo agent to being that team leader.
Well, and let's talk about this too. First of all, you're right, Cherie, 100% that it's a different skill set, right? But also just making the shift from buyer's agent to listing agent, that's a completely different skill set. And a lot of people think, oh, because I do well with buyers, I'm going to be able to do well with sellers. Or because this person is buying a house from me, I'm the right person to list their house. And the fact of the matter is, that's not true. So I'd like to hear you talk to that, Ken. Tell us about that.
We get that a lot. I love hearing that objection from people that are listing their properties is, well, Johnny sold me my house, so I'm going to list it with him. And so that's a pretty easy conversation to have. So my goal when I get that objection is just to get in front of them and then, literally demonstrate the contrast between them and me. Damien had the listing menu. So we're putting together a listing. I got the listing menu was a list of, you see this online sometimes. We do all these things and the brand X does all that and we do more and all that. So we're developing that, but just demonstrating the difference in competence and thoughtful marketing and all the energy you put into it versus somebody who's a buyer's agent. Not to take anything away from a buyer's agent, but we spend $20,000 a month in marketing and expenses and tools and services that you don't have when you're a buyer's agent, and that you can't really compete with if you're out in the field against somebody who's got all that stuff set up.
Okay, so I want to ask you this. What do you say? Because the small agents, like if I'm a solo agent today and I'm competing against a team, I'm really glad we're having this conversation. This is a good question. If I'm competing against a team as a solo agent, my script or my spin on it is going to be, hey, look, when you're dealing with that, Ken Crotts or whoever that guy is, you're not really dealing with him. You're going to end up dealing with somebody on his team that may or may not know your house, blah, 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 blah. And so, when you deal with me as the solo agent, you get me. I'm going to serve you at the highest level, and I'm going to be available for you, and I'm going to bleed for you and sweat for you, and I'm going to do everything I can to take care of you personally. I want to know I want from each one of you, how would each of you resolve that concern? If you were go ahead, Brian.
Okay, so I'm up against somebody, or I'm the new guy. I'm the new guy who's trying to overcome the team objection.
So let's say you are now a team listing agent or a team leader, one of the two, and you're going into a listing where you are competing against a solo agent who has used that with the seller and convinced the seller at some level that they've got to work with a solo agent because that's the only way they're going to get the personal touch.
Right. I can appreciate that, Michael. You know what's happening right now while I'm sitting here talking to you about your housing goals and getting your house sold? Every lender, every title agent, every closer is being followed up on by a professional with 30 years in closing experience. Every buyer lead that's coming in is being handled and literally fought over by a team of the hungriest buyers agents in the business. And even though I'm right here, every one of my other customers is getting the number one service that they can get, or the best service they can get. What's happening with the solo agent? who's taking lunch or in an appointment or showing a house. Everything else is falling off the table and falling apart. So they're running around trying to keep 3 or 4 balls in the area. And guess what? Eventually one of them is going to fall, and that might be yours. You don't want to take that risk, do you?
Wow. I like the head shake, by the way. I love the head shake. Brian, Cherie, you guys got something for that?
Yeah, I'll go. So ultimately, like the third part of my presentation, if I'm doing a listing appointment, is why a team. That's the title of the slide. I use, and this is kind of a running joke, I use a flip book, and it's not a computer, but again, my flip book battery never goes dead.
I love it.
The screen never goes out. It never malfunctions. It never reboots right before you do a webinar, which is what happened this morning on my stupid computer. So I want to make sure when I'm sitting in front of you, even though I'm talking about tech, I do on a flip book. And I know I taught a class one time, and somebody said after they came up to me after the class, and they go, "Hey, where do I get one of those flip book computers?" And I went, "Oh, okay." I swear to God, it happened. They thought it was because millennials. Love you guys. No offense. Anyway, so if I'm sitting out there, it says why a team. And I usually, depending on the person, but this is one of my favorite stories. So I ask people, so you've been to the doctor recently, at some point in the last 10 years, right? Most people have. I said, great. So basically imagine this. You walk into a doctor's office and the doctor checks you in. You're like, well, that's a little weird. Then the doctor weighs you, and then the doctor takes your blood pressure. The doctor draws your blood. And then the doctor comes and does the doctor part. And then you walk back to the front and the doctor checks you out. How do you feel about that? Most people look at me like I'm nuts. So that's what we did, and including me, and I did it for years and years as a single agent. I had this skill set of being a real estate agent. I work with buyers, I work with sellers, I did the marketing, I did the listings, I did all of this stuff, all the paperwork. As a matter of fact, I used to do paperwork at 3:00 in the morning because I didn't have time. Nowadays, I do what I'm good at, and I'm great at working with sellers and helping them do that. I've got 18 agents, by the way, who are going to get up every morning and make phone calls to try and find someone to buy your house. Just like Ken said, I've got people every single time the phone rings. I wish I can answer the phone every single time, but the reality is you've seen my phone ring 4 times since we've been sitting here. I leave my phone on silent, face up, so they see it ring over and over and over again. And I don't answer the phone. You guys know that. You know what? When someone calls about your house, I want them to come into your house. And I know that one of the 18 agents that I have phone rings simultaneously, one of them will pick it up. So, at the end of the day, you may not get the exact personal touch that someone else is talking about. But here's my question. Are you interested in having a personal touch, or are you interested in getting your house sold in the quickest period of time for the most percent of money? Let me ask you this. Do you feel it makes more sense to work with a team, or does it make more sense to work with an individual? No one's ever said to me it makes more sense to work with an individual. So, it's just setting it up. And honestly, if you're a team leader and you don't have something like that in your presentation where you ask them right there and then, I'm not saying that I get the listing every single time, but I want to say that 95% of the time after I've gone over that, if they don't pick me, they're picking some other team. I've at least eliminated the 85% of the agents who aren't on a team. That takes, and so I don't have to fight this group of people. I only got to fight this group of people. So,
yeah.
Rick's like, but it's my sister.
Well, we you know what happens if your house doesn't sell, Michael? Wouldn't that just ruin the next 20 Christmases for you with your sister?
No, I really don't like her anyway.
You hire me, you can fire me. You can't do that with your sister.
And I love it when you say that, Ken, and you're so right about that. Guys, I'm really loving this, and I'm loving the role playing, and I'm loving, you guys are bringing a ton of value. And by the way, shout out to Oscar Montalvo who's watching, and everybody else that's watching. I'm so glad you guys are on with us right now. And again, please type in your questions for me, for Ken, Brian, Cherie. Type your questions into your chat box here, into the Facebook post here on the Michael Hellickson's Club Wealth Real Estate Coaching, and we'll get to them. One thing I want to add before I forget is this is also being turned into a podcast. So for those of you that are listening on the podcast right now, thank you so much. And by the way, we appreciate you guys not only subscribing to the podcast, but for those of you that are willing, it would be awesome if you could give us a 5-star review on our podcast. That really helps us get higher up in the rankings on the podcast, of course. And for those of you that don't know where it is, you can see it on the board right here. I've also posted it in the Facebook feed. It's clubwealth.com/TV. and that'll take you right to the link where you can grab the podcast. And Rick says, you guys are awesome. Thank you for that, Rick. We think you're pretty awesome too. And that's Coach Rick Arenas talking to us there. All right, so let's keep moving forward on this. In terms of your listing, and Brian, you hit the nail on the head. You said you need to have this, and there's a lot of this things that people need to have in their listing presentation. So I want to talk, because all of you that are on right now, Ken, Cherie, Brian, you've all listed a ton of homes, and as have I, and I got to tell you, I'm passionate about systems, and particularly with the listing appointment, I'm very passionate about having a very strict system that you follow on a listing appointment. I had my 44-point listing appointment checklist, and I know that every time I went on appointments, I would check off each box on the checklist. And if I saw something or I encountered something that I hadn't encountered before and I wanted to change the actual checklist, I would also carry a red pen with me. And very subtly, while I was in the appointment, I would just write down the change while we're still in conversation. I would just alter my checklist. And that way, when my assistant got it back, she knew, hey, anything in red, that's a global change to the checklist template. And over time, my template got wicked good, and it became mine, right? It became me. And for those of you that want a copy of that checklist, I'll post the link. Maybe Natasha can post it in the chat right now to where you can download my 44-point listing appointment checklist for free and watch me teach exactly how I did my listing appointments. So that being said, how are you guys systemizing your listing appointments to ensure that not only are you getting the listing each time, but that you're getting better and better and better at your listing appointment each time? And any of you can start.
Now, I just ripped off yours.
Okay, so you use the 44-point.
I took yours and I've modified it over the time. And, Michael is such a giver. He was giving to me and freely sharing with me and helped me grow my business for years before he even started the coaching. So thank you for that, Michael. And that was one of those things that I took away from you that I still use today. I still use a variation of that checklist.
That's awesome. I'm really glad to hear you using that. And I'm even more glad to hear that not only are you using the checklist, but that you've modified it to make it yours. And I imagine that that's an ongoing process, or was that a one-time thing, or have you been modifying it consistently?
No, we have to mark for where we put the sign in now and do utility locates. We didn't have to do that a few years ago. So I mean, you're always changing and growing and adapting. If you're not, you're falling behind.
That's awesome. Brian, Cherie, how are you guys doing it?
I mean, we do the same thing. I started with the 44-point checklist with our listing presentation. We've changed it from there a lot. We've made a lot of changes to it, but it's the same type of thing. Is we meet, as a team, we meet once a week to go over our entire process, do some more training on it. And I listen. I'm not the person who's going on the listing appointments anymore, but I do listen to my team as far as what's happening out there. Should we make some tweaks? What else can we add? Different things that we're now adding into extra added pieces of value. We then add those into our listing appointment, our listing presentation also. It's not a flip book.
So are you doing Are you doing like an electronic iPad or something like that? Or
we have it we have it on the iPad. It's nothing that you need the internet for. You don't need the internet for it. We have a paper listing agreement that we take with us.
That's good.
As our backups.
Well, and so then I got to come back to kind of what Brian was talking about. What's your backup plan? Like, what happens? A listing agent gets out on an appointment, battery fails, iPad crashes.
Yeah, so we take.
Whoa, back up. Show us the nails. Come on. I got to see. Come on. Show us the nails. I caught a glimpse. Let's see them.
No,
come on, Cherie.
You do it every time. We're purple today.
I love it. Okay.
But we have a backup listing packet that's there. We do. So the listing presentation is the one that's on the iPad. It's very systematic. We know exactly what's going on in there, but it's there as a visual guide, more or less for the seller, or if we have a brand new agent. But we still take in paper forms. Just in case, I'm not going to send it to you later. If we're sitting right there and you want to e-sign it, we're going to e-sign it right there. If we don't e-sign it right there, then you're signing the paper copy.
Okay, so permission to coach?
Say that again?
May I have permission to coach you real quick?
Go ahead. I thought you said, who's my coach? I was like,
no,
I don't know.
I know Brian is. No. Okay, so here's what I'm going to suggest. I would like to see you, Cherie, go back to every one of your listing agents, anybody on your team that's allowed to go on listing appointments. And I would recommend that you go through and you put a qualification system in place. And I'm saying this specifically because you're using an electronic presentation. What I would want them to do is I would want them to have that presentation memorized, and they're going to have to literally, I want you to have them role playing. And I'm assuming you're doing a lot of role play with your team. So I would want to have them role play. And then in the middle of the role play, like they're in there, like 2 minutes into the role play, I want you to take the iPad away and say, your iPad just crashed. Now continue with the appointment. And I want them to be able to crush that appointment without the iPad. And one of the things that I would like to see is I'd like to see in backup, I'd like to see a checklist on paper in backup.
No, there is that. Okay. Remember, we take the 44-point checklist that we've altered. So it's
okay, good. Okay.
Yeah, we use the iPad as the visual for the clients because clients like to see check marks on things. Clients like to see pictures. They like to see that stuff. So that's what we use that for. We use that as it's more for the clients.
I think it's great. I'm not saying don't do it. I actually think it's great. What I'm suggesting though is have them be great at both, right? So have them practice it without the iPad, have them practice it with the iPad, and they need to be able to present to you as if you're the seller and nail it both ways. And Brian, you said you're using a checklist, but not an iPad. Is that right?
I don't use a checklist.
You don't use it. You just go in and just do it.
So I have a checklist in my brain. So I have steps of the sale. So I'm a firm believer that everything should have a process because the truth of the matter is I'm extremely good at faking it. I'm extremely good at adapting, but I also know that it's better to do it the same way over and over again. So, for me, I teach people this. Step one of the sale is greeting. I know that seems really silly, but how you greet somebody, that's step one. Mm-hmm. Step two is walkthrough. Actually step two is take control. Step three is walkthrough. So after I take control of the situation, I say, look, guys, so I'm so happy for you having me here today. I'm going to take my bag. I have a bag. I'm going to put it on your kitchen table. And then why don't you guys take me around the house? So I'm taking control. I'm telling them what to do. Then I do the walkthrough. And the purpose of the walkthrough is to serve one thing. I don't care about their house. I hate to say that. It doesn't matter. I know what their house is worth. Maybe there's some little glitch. I'm just trying to warm up, and I stalk their house. Like I'm a little bit of a creepy guy in this scenario. I'm looking for any picture they got on a wall. I'm looking for anything that I can start talking about. Like if I'm in Washington, I'm you're a Seattle Seahawks fan and blah, 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 blah. So I want to talk about that. If you're a golfer, if you're bicycle, whatever you are, anything that I know anything about that I see, or I see a picture of vacation. Oh, cool. Where's that vacation? So to me, that's just about building rapport. Then I go over a CMA, then I do my marketing presentation, then I do my listing contract, and then I close. And it's done that way every single time. And I've gotten to the point where I've screwed that up. Like at some point in time, where people are like, oh, let's go sit down over here. And I go, okay. And the second I do what they want to do, then I've lost control and I'm done. And I'm not saying I still haven't listed houses when I do that, but I promise you, if you do the same thing over and over and over and over again, you're going to get muscle memory, whether you like it or not. So
I love it.
It's really important. And if you don't have steps of the sale built out, I think it's a mistake.
I love it. And I love that you're taking control right from the get-go. And I love that you're using those things to build rapport. I know, shout out to Coach Garrett Pancree, who is in Boise. And I know he does the same thing when he goes through someone's house and he sees that they like football. He assumes they're a Seahawks fan too. So I'm just kidding. I hope you're watching right now. By the way, last question. Actually, I'm going to give you one last question, then we got to wrap up. Really quick, do any of the three of you use a pre-listing packet? Ken, do you use one?
Sometimes.
Okay. Cherie?
Yeah, it depends on the price range.
Okay, so higher price point, yes. Lower price point, no?
Right.
Okay, Ken, are you the same way?
Yeah. I do more for the higher price listings, but sometimes it's a matter of how much time I have before I arrive. I mean, I like to set my appointments 24 hours out, 24 to 48 hours, and that's it. So you don't always have time to get it there.
Okay, good stuff. And Brian, do you use a pre-listing package?
No, the only version of any kind of pre-listing I've ever believed in doing is maybe a CMA. And that's more to get me in the door, but I'm not going to send them all my stuff because then they're going to use it against me. They're going to cancel my appointment. So I'm not giving them any information that they really couldn't already have.
That's actually my take on it too. I never used a pre-listing package. And again, no criticism to those that do. I just chose to, it was too expensive. Number one, I didn't feel like the expense was worth it. I didn't feel like I got the ROI on a pre-listing packet that I wanted to. And it gave them too many ways and reasons to get out. So that being said, we are completely out of time. We got to get on our coaches call. So everybody, seriously, thank you so much for being here. Ken Crotts, thank you for being our guest.
Thank you for inviting
today. We really appreciate it. And Brian and Sheree, thank you so much for co-hosting with me. Everybody watching, if you'd like to hear more from Ken, type in more Ken in the comment box. And we will make sure that we bring Ken back to talk about more ways that you too can be listing 4 houses a week like Ken is. So have a great day, everybody. Thank you so much. And remember, inside each one of you, there's a world-class beast just dying to get out. You got to choose to unleash that beast. So go do something world-class today and take that first step. Have a great day, everybody.